So flow state really seems to be something that most adrenaline junkies kind of can relate to. When time slows down, they're completely focused. But if you're not an adrenaline junkie and you're just playing, youth sports, or you're a parent and you're trying to, perform better at work and you need creativity, flow state you need to access. You need to know how to tune into this type of a state of mind.
Yeah, and Steven Kotler, the guy that is kind of the driving force of this whole, YouTube presence.
Yeah, tons of videos and speeches and things about it.
His stuff really kind of came about from the adrenaline sports. So a lot of the examples, a lot of the, moments where he's going to point to real life are kind of entwined with that. But he would claim that, flow state is something you can absolutely access in normal everyday like workplace scenarios.
There was one scenario that he was given a Google presentation. He was talking about, if you require your company to respond to emails in 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and that's part of your gig, you're killing the idea of flow state. If phones are a piece of your everyday life and you're trying to get into a creativity mode, get your phone out of your way. Any types of distractions, or, I've got a lot of friends my age that have ESPN notifications for every score that ever pops up. And I tell you, you sit next to a guy like that, it's like, Jesus, your phone's ringing again.
There's a sport playing all over the world all the time.
Yeah,
of course there's a sport update.
It's kind of crazy. It's a pretty overwhelming to see the amount of notifications you can get from that kind of a platform.
All right. So what is flow specifically, as he describes it kind of?
More or less, it's a state of mind where creativity and purpose is, your mind slows down. There's not as broad of you're not worried about what other things are going on. You're completely focused, and your creativity can go through the roof in this state of mind. I mean, that's in my mind, that's really what the essence of it is your level of creativity and the optimizing a performance and getting a specific task done with zero distractions.
Yeah, I think that's if flow is 100 things, which I think for every different person it probably is, but the spot that really isolates for me is that spot where flow makes it possible to do the impossible. Like, I love that feel. And in the sports and things like that, you can really highlight it easily because, as a pitcher, you have those moments where it's like, I can't miss. There's not a part of this box I can't hit.
Right.
When you played even as a youth, as a little kid playing dodgeball, like every ball thrown at me, it can't touch me. I see them coming in slow motion.
Right. Or you've got the NBA concept, the guy's on fire, you just keep giving the ball and he makes every basket.
Yes.
Everybody can probably relate to a Michael Jordan highlight reel. You know what I mean?
At the very least, we can conceptualize the idea of flow. I think the spot where he really starts turning the concept on its edge is when he starts saying flow is not just that adrenaline moment where you are in a hyperactive, sport-like state, which I think is easy to identify. He would also say that he's able to hijack it in his daily workflow.
Sure, like writers find the spot of creativity. CEO guys
your muse almost.
Right, your high level performers and how they continually deliver on these creative worlds. Your what's the Apple guy? Yeah,
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs. Yeah. He's that new guy. That new guy.
Yeah, the new Apple guy.
You gotta. I would think that most people studying that concept would say this guy is the epitome of finding a level of creativity in his work.
Yeah, and the weird part with that whole mojo is, and I don't know where it lands in the research, which is kind of cool because this is a frontier of research. This is, while it's been going on for a long time, they're starting to recognize the similarities in these disparate research topics, and they're now jumping them all together to say, cognitive, dissonance, where you're not the same person or you're not thinking the same. Well, that's actually related to this kind of flow state, perhaps. And
right,
adrenaline dumps and
the research study he had from the Navy SEALs, where it was they took novices to elite, and it was a 460% increase as long as they got these guys in flow state on the speed at which they learned to perform at an elite level. I mean, that's a pretty crazy thing to harness if you could.
Yeah, that's if I'm a trainer, or if I'm a person who's trying to get a sales team together, or if I'm anything like that, I'm looking at flow state as like the magic pill. If I can get my crew, my whatever into flow state, even as a firefighter, if I can get my crew into flow state, there's no fire we can't take. Like that's intoxicating.
It's almost for like bodybuilding. The idea of steroids is like the secret weapon of performance. Like
flow.
If flow state was a thing, it would be your steroid to life.
Right. So assuming that this is something we can like weaponize for our efforts, I think that the hunting it down is like the next best thing. So how do you do that? And I love that the how-tos is everything from like, oh, you get into a Zen-like meditation all the way to like you jump out of an airplane.
Yeah, isn't it kind of crazy? Can you get there by relaxing and completely focusing your thoughts? Well, or, we could open the cockpit door and, oh God.
Right. Like, it's so weird because so much of flow state seems like we're grasping at understanding this right now.
It's insane, though, because a lot of times you look at it from different points in your own lifetime. Like, when did you work with a group, or maybe it was in athletics? Did you have a team that really clicked? And then once you got on a different team, man, this is not as much fun.
Yeah.
Not everybody's as locked in. The team chemistry is different. You can see it in athletics all the time when professional sports. What's the first thing most guys do? They're like, oh, love this group of guys.
Right.
We're all on the same page.
Right.
We have a purpose in mind. We try to.
Our coach has got us just dialed in. We're all locked in sync.
Yeah, and that's in essence, you can see it from a group perspective or even an individual. It's not very easy to write long form things. If you've ever written a paper, you're in high school, wrote a paper, you probably access some form of a flow when you really got in the groove and got it done.
I think
it takes a little while to get into the groove.
Well, we call flow state, I think, a lot of different things naturally, but yeah, the groove,
focus.
I'm the world disappears, yeah, the flow. It's so funny because we've called it so many different things that now we're starting to recognize all the same thing.
Oh yeah, it's
all the same thing.
It's kind of interesting. It almost steals a little bit from, this is your upper level of focus here. Oh no, we're going to call it flow now, rewrap it up
Right.
and like encompass more things. Right. We're good. We're going to include it all.
So the crazy part is like what's happening in your brain. Like as they've started brain mapping, which is something that's relatively new to the human experience to actually map what's going on in your brain. They're looking at seeing like, all right, you're getting dopamine dumps, you're getting adrenaline dumps, you're getting what they say like 5 different neurochemicals that are happening, and when they happen, you're getting into flow, and it's starting to alter the way that you think.
Which is interesting too, because please feel free, Google this stuff and look it up because it's pretty darn interesting. They're talking about the future of Neuralinks and or supplements, to where if you actually prepared the cocktail in your brain to mimic this type of this outcome, how crazy would that be?
It's like your kickstarter.
We really can just pop a pill now and be geniuses?
Pop a pill, I'm in flow state. What I loved is that they for the longest time, they had a different explanation for what's happening in the brain, like anatomically. And it was like, oh, you only ever really use 10% of your brain. And then when you really get into that flow, when you really get into that, like you're ramping up, you're using like 40, 50, 100% of your brain.
Right.
But like all the research now is showing the exact opposite.
Right.
It's like
you slow everything down.
Yeah, you're actually thinking too much all the time. But when you enter flow state, you just start turning off all of these irrelevant systems, and now you're just in the moment. And then what they call it, the hyper now or something like that. Like you're there.
Right. It's kind of nuts though, because if that was, I always get in a little sci-fi action where you start rolling through the possibilities of it. If you could easily just enter flow state, imagine the creativity level in large group atmospheres. Imagine what teams could accomplish. Imagine what Olympians will be able to do rather than grinding through, your training sequences. Now all of a sudden your max performance from the get-go just from the pop of a pill is kind of crazy to think.
Well, there was that really weird study. Maybe weird is not the word, but there's an Australian study that said that they hooked up, these magnetic impulses to the brain to basically induce what they call it transient frontality, which is what happens in flow state. Like different parts of your brain just turn off. So they induced it with this system, and while inducing it, they were able to make these folks who couldn't figure out a brain teaser, a difficult problem, like 23 of them are immediately right on top of it.
Yeah, those results were pretty insane. I mean,
Right.
You kind of wonder, like, did you just go to a college university to grab the second group of them? Or
Yeah,
I mean,
did you change your...
It was drastic. No one solved it in the first round, and then the second round of the study, they had
record times.
23 or 43,
Yeah.
I think was the number.
So then at that point, you got to be like, well, can I get that...
Yeah,
Can I get that
zapper?
magnet hat?
I want the zapper.
Can I get the magnet hat and go into work? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You go down, you sit down in front of your computer, you've done all your emails, you've made a habit to to create your box. This is your box of like getting into the zone.
Right.
And then you put on your magic hat for whatever amount of time it takes.
Have you ever seen the hair hats?
Yeah.
Where they like help you grow your hair? That's
Right.
what everybody's
Same
gonna
thing.
have.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Everyone turns on their brain cap. They're thinking it's their thinking cap. They put on their thinking cap. Everyone zones out.
That's what it's called too.
it should be.
It's gonna be called thinking cap.
And all you do is you show up to, it doesn't matter what business you're a part of or anything like that. You show up to this building where the thinking caps are housed. You sit down in front of your computer. You put it on. You fully zone out for like an hour and a half. You're the most productive you've ever been.
Right.
And you go home.
Yeah.
How long?
Awesome.
How long do you think you can stay in the zone and not like
I would never get
blow
out.
your mind up?
I would never get out.
You're just in. This is
Well,
where
think
I
about
live
it. When
now.
you jump out of a plane and you do something like that, you're talking about 20 seconds or something. And it feels like this 10, 12, 20-minute experience.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you'd sit in there for like 3 weeks and you wouldn't know it.
Or vice versa, when you really are in the zone and you've oh shoot, like they talk about coders, people that sit down and do like long coding sessions of computer. They'll do a session for like 4 hours and it feels like they were in there for 10 minutes. Like, yeah, you would have some massive time dilation, but doesn't this have to break your brain?
I don't think so.
So you think you could be in there 24/7?
I've been flowing lots in my life.
I've been meaning to talk to you about your flow.